The Packers draft was really fucking bad. In my Why Tua Should Go To article a while back, I looked at the past 20 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. And they were Tom Brady with 6, Big Ben, Eli Manning, and Peyton Manning, all with 2 apiece. And then Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Kurt Warner, and Drew Brees, all with 1 apiece. And 4 nobodies that we don't care about. And I somewhat arbitrarily decided whether these quarterbacks were elite at the time of their Super Bowl win. And after I wrote this, Patrick Mahomes won his first Super Bowl, further solidifying my point. An elite quarterback is needed to win a Super Bowl, because the number that I came out with was 16 out of 20, and then 17 out of 21. Over 80% of the time in the past 20 years, an elite quarterback was needed to win a Super Bowl.
Fucking the floor!
The number is debatable, but there's probably between 8 and 10 elite quarterbacks in the NFL at any given time. And for several years, Aaron Rodgers had one of them. Having an elite quarterback is a luxury only afforded to about 1/4 of NFL teams at any given time, and the Packers have had one with Aaron Rodgers for a decade straight. If the ultimate goal in the NFL is to win a Super Bowl, and you're not winning a Super Bowl without an elite quarterback, whenever you have one, you need to be trying to do that very hard. Because you've been afforded a Super Bowl window by virtue of having an elite quarterback, and once that Super Bowl window closes, you're not winning one. If you don't go all in to win a Super Bowl while you can, you probably won't. And don't get me wrong, Aaron Rodgers is still elite, but he has probably 2 or 3 more years of elite play left. And once he's done, he's done.
Wide receivers, I haven't heard of him.
Aaron Rodgers was drafted in 2005, and he took over as the starter in 2008. And that year, the Packers drafted Jordy Nelson with the 5th pick of the 2nd round. Jordy Nelson is the highest drafted skill position player in the Aaron Rodgers era. The Packers have not drafted a single skill position player in the 1st round to help Aaron Rodgers the entire time that he's been there. Since 2011, when Jordy Nelson fell off, the Packers haven't had a single receiver exceed 700 yards in a season not named Devontae Adams. They've had one receiver exceed 600 yards not named Devontae Adams, and it was Randall Cobb 3 years ago. And last year, in 2019, they had no player, not only receiver, no player exceed 500 receiving yards the entire season. And Devontae Adams missed 4 games. Rodgers may still be elite, but he can't elevate scrubs from Walmart like he used to in 2011 or 2014. Nothing quite gets me off like a good backup QB. Playmakers to help Aaron Rodgers, a receiver or a pass-catching tight end, have been draft priorities for the Green Bay Packers ever since Jordy Nelson left, which makes it all the more laughable that they haven't invested a top 2 pick in either since Devontae Adams. As the need for playmakers became more apparent, the drafting neglect became more obvious. Following 2018, a year where Devontae Adams accounted for 45% of receiver yards and 65% of receiver touchdowns, the Packers didn't draft a single receiver in the entire draft. As the Packers' receiving woes predictably didn't get any better the following year, the need for wide receiver, and arguably the best receiver class ever, was apparent. I personally didn't do a single mock where I didn't give Green Bay a receiver in the 1st round. But if shit hadn't hit the fan yet, it certainly did now. In the first year of this year's draft, the draft was playing out in such an advantageous way for the Green Bay Packers. Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb fell all the way to 15 and 17 respectively. And a very small part of me, a very ignorant part of me, thought that Green Bay might have moved up potentially to that mid-teen range to go grab one of those guys. But clearly it didn't happen. Even after Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, and Brent Ayuk all went in the next 8 picks, the Packers looked like they'd have their choice over Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, among others, all of whom would be first-round talents in any other year. Even after Ayuk went at 25, only 5 teams had picks before Green Bay, none of whom were in immediate danger of taking a receiver. Green Bay was going to sit pretty at 30 and get a first-round talent easily at a very good position of need. However, they moved up. And as you know, they traded not only the 30th pick, but also a 4th rounder at this year's draft to draft Jordan Love. In the deepest receiver class ever, the Packers traded up for a QB. I can't imagine how frustrated this makes Aaron Rodgers feel, because he knows how close this team is to a title. And I can't imagine how frustrated he is because this is moving the team farther away from that short-term goal and is drafting his successor while he still has good football left. That move in and of itself is one of the biggest fuck yous I've ever seen the franchise give their best player in a very long time. Even the team's tackle, David Bakhtiari, said Aaron was about to be on fire. But after the absolutely atrocious decision that was to draft Jordan Love, the Packers
fucked up harder on day 2. Aaron good, AJ bad.
Going into day 2, there were legitimately 20 receivers on the board that would have stepped in and been the Packers wide receiver 2 on day 1. Even after Pittman, Higgins, Chenault, Hamler, Claypool, Van Jefferson, and Mims all went before the Packers at 62, the Packers still had their pick of about 15 starting receivers in the NFL. Tyler Johnson, Brian Edwards, Devin Duvernay, you get the point. There was a lot of guys there that would have made sense. Even addressing tight end with a guy like Adam Troutman would have made plenty of sense, right? I mean, like he would have given Rodgers a mismatch release. But the Packers decided to take A.J. Dillon, running back out of Boston College. You've heard me say 100 times now why running backs don't matter and whatever, but this one especially doesn't make sense. It might be the worst running back pick of the entire draft. So, in the NFL, running is inherently worse than passing because it gives you less yards per play and less expected points added per play. So whenever you're running the ball, your offense is being hurt because you're not passing, right? And this means that running backs can really only accumulate value if they can catch balls out of the backfield. And A.J. Dillon caught 21 balls in 3 years at Boston College. Not only this, but it also hurts them because Aaron Jones is a fringe top 5 back in the NFL, and Jamal Williams is a fringe top 20 back. I mean, he's a very competent starter. So whenever A.J. Dillon is getting the ball, he's probably touches from their elite duo that they have already. And not only does it hurt him in 2 ways, but lastly, when you're running the ball, you're hurting your offense because you're not passing. And that's especially true when you have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the one thing that the Packers have a step up on. Like, a quarterback is one spot, and throwing the ball is one spot that they have a very big...
I lose my train of thought here, and it's kind of funny, but what I'm trying to say is Aaron Rodgers is the one advantage that the Packers have over most teams.
Who needs a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback anyways? Through 2 rounds,
I don't.
The Packers needlessly traded up to draft a quarterback that not only hurts their team in the short term, but will probably piss off Rodgers and cause problems down the line. And drafted an early down bruiser that indefinitely hurts their team by taking the ball away from their quarterback and their 2 lead backs with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. But that's not it. In such a deep wide receiver class, the Packers still had their choice of about 10 receivers that would start for them on day 1. And guys like Adam Troutman were available at tight end that could potentially contribute to the passing game with a 3rd round pick. But they took this guy. The tight end from Cincinnati, Joshua DeGuara. It's okay if you know who he is, because he was consistently ranked, if he was ranked, as tight end 15 on most big boards, and he brings nothing fancy to the table from a pass catching perspective. In the PFF draft guide, the first sentence of his scouting report reads, DeGuara has future H-back written all over him. And there was a report that the Packers wanted to use him as an H-back. So, basically, they spent a 1st round pick on a quarterback that's going to hurt them, a bruising running back in the 2nd round that doesn't catch passes, and a 3rd round pick on an H-back when their need was receiver in the deepest class ever.
Who the fuck is that guy?
The absolute best case scenario, and I mean like ceiling of ceilings, is if DeGuara becomes like a Kyle Juszczyk type player. But here's the thing. If DeGuara becomes Kyle Juszczyk, he probably doesn't warrant the 3rd round selection that you took him with. Because fullbacks are important in the way that running backs are. It is so much harder for them to accumulate value than like even the average NFL slot receiver. So if he hits his ceiling, and DeGuara becomes the Kyle Juszczyk for the Packers, he probably doesn't warrant the selection because like it's not helping the passing game, and it's just encouraging more inefficient football running. And here's the thing though, using DeGuara as on H-back is going to be likely in conjunction with some inefficient power running with A.J. Dillon. So if you're running the ball with A.J. Dillon and you're having DeGuara lead block, you're once again taking the ball out of Aaron Rodgers and the only advantage they have over most teams, and making your offense that much worse once again, like the last 2 picks.
I think I'll pass.
The main focus of this video was to look at how bad the first 3 picks were for Green Bay. But in rounds 4 through 7, I don't think you can say a single pick was good. In the 4th round, oh yeah, they traded that pick as part of the Jordan Love deal. Notable wide receivers that would have been available there include Tyler Johnson, Antonio Gandy-Golden, James Prochet, Juwan Jennings, KJ Hill, Joe Reed, etc. With wide receivers falling all day long, Green Bay could have addressed need if they wanted to, but their final 6 picks were linebacker, guard, center, guard, safety, edge.
Maybe I equals Shanahan.
The draft by itself doesn't make any sense, but I heard a theory that makes less sense. A theory that might become a reality soon. The last thing that Matt LaFleur saw in 2019 was San Francisco running all over the Packers, his team, in the NFC Championship game. Raheem Mostert went for 220 yards, and the team as a whole went for 285 yards in a dominant 37-20 win. But the score wasn't that close. Someone brought up the fact that Matt LaFleur comes from the same tree as Shanahan, and I think that the Niners' loss might have really messed up LaFleur's mindset. Matt LaFleur might be thinking, and the draft backs this up, that the Kyle Shanahan system and the 49ers offense is how LaFleur's offense is supposed to look. LaFleur might be doubling down and trying to create a replica of the Niners offense this year, and that makes some sense given the draft picks that they had. This theory gained some validity when a day after the draft, Packers GM Brian you get the point. Packers GM went on Pro Football Talk and said that instead of the Packers' second-round selections, LaFleur wants to tie everything to the run game. If the Packers try replicating the Niners' offense, the team will be more of a disaster than we already imagined. First of all, Kyle Shanahan is perhaps the greatest offensive mind in football right now, and his personnel fits exactly what the Niners are trying to do. George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, a bunch of yak weapons, a great line, and a suffocating top 3 defense are almost essential for this offense to succeed, and the Packers have none of these. LaFleur isn't half the play caller that Shanahan is, and the Packers legitimately might be superior to the Niners in one position: QB. If the Packers are trying to run the scheme, not only will they be behind the 8-ball in coaching, and the talent won't fit, but this scheme will negate the one strength that they have over most teams in the NFL: quarterback Aaron Rodgers. That's about all I wanted to say. I mean, this draft, no matter what angle you take, it's horrible, because if they try to run the Shanahan scheme with the personnel that they have, they're gonna fail. Not only because they don't have the personnel to match the Niners, but the coaching isn't nearly as good too, and that'll be negating the one thing that they have on most teams, which is a better quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. And even if they don't try to run the Shanahan scheme, Rodgers is he only has 2-3 more years of elite play left. So they're going to negate that by not putting playmakers around him, and they're just not going to win. So I think it's safe to say that this draft was not good.